With the help of a well-known bounty hunter, a woman fights to bring justice to the men who destroyed her life. In a quiet village, the Clemens brothers, Emmett, Frank, and Rufus, set their eyes on the local bank. While the officials are fast asleep at the nearby station, they rob the establishment. However, a teller rings the alarm, thus awakening the guards. Rufus shoots the man down while his brothers proceed to eliminate the rest. Quickly, the brothers flee, but in the confusion, Emmett rides on Rufus's horse, which pisses his brother off. Because of the delay, Frank gets shot in the leg before they ride away. With men on their tails, the brothers race across the fields as fast as possible. Eventually, they lose their pursuers and end up at a horse ranch. Starved and tired, Emmett decides to steal food and new horses, though Frank asserts that they shouldn't kill anyone if they don't need to. Rufus refuses this rule, but Emmett agrees with their brother, silencing him. To their surprise, HannieCaulder, the ranch owner, greets them with a gun in hand. He allows them to only let their horse rest there before moving on to the next village, but Rufus immediately shoots the man dead. Angry at their trigger-happy brother, Emmett yells at Rufus to cook a meal for them in their victim's home. The man rants about how it's a woman's work to cook, but does as he's told anyway. However, when he enters the house, he's delighted to find Jim's beautiful wife, Hannie. He immediately alerts his brothers before approaching the woman. Hannie breaks a bottle over his head in defense, but the man still grabs her. Seeing the woman struggling in their brother's arms, Emmett and Frank also become enticed. The trio proceeds to enjoy the poor widow's company throughout the rest of the day. The following morning, the brothers exit the house, drunk and giggling. On his way out, Rufus sets the house ablaze. The gang then takes the horses from the ranch and nonchalantly leaves, just as a tired Hannie exits her destroyed home. Only then does she see her husband's body and mourn over him. Eventually, she buries him in their land and takes his gun. Having nothing else, the woman journeys on foot and soon stops by a well in an abandoned area. Just then, a man named Thomas Price arrives. Given what she recently went through, the woman becomes defensive and aims her gun at him. Thomas clarifies that he just wants water from the well. When she doesn't back down, the man steals her gun and removes its bullets before handing it back. Still, Hannie knocks him out with the end of her gun and goes to his horses, hoping to steal it. However, she stops when she finds that his other horse is carrying a dead body, giving her an idea. Hannie sets up camp instead and checks the man's weapons. While he's still unconscious, she uses his gun for target practice, only for Thomas to interrupt her soon after. He heads her for taking his gun, wondering if she's married to someone with a price on his head. This confirms to the woman that he's a bounty hunter. She asks him to teach her how to shoot a gun, but he thinks she can't kill a man. Instead, he advises her to forget about her grievances and move on. Desperate, Hannie offers herself as payment for his services. Thomas, however, knows that if he ever touches her, she'll likely use the chance to steal his gun and shoot him instead. With that, he leaves. Before getting far, he notices Hannie still following him on foot. Pitying the woman, he gives her a hat and a water skin before leaving her again. Still, the determined woman follows him and even reaches him when he sets up camp later in the day. The following day, Thomas watches Hannie sleep when she has nightmares about her experience. She wakes up crying, making the man deduce what happened to her. Elsewhere, the brothers rest in the middle of nowhere as Emmett treats Frank's wounded leg. The two blame Rufus for their predicament and for killing their father, which the man argues was just an accident. Emmett then sees the posse arriving from the previous village, so they stop bickering and race away. Meanwhile, Thomas provides Hannie with spare clothing, planning to take her to Mexico to get her a gun. Hannie smiles as the man has decided to teach her. The two journey side by side for the rest of the day until they arrive at a town. While Thomas heads to the saloon, Hannie speaks to the sheriff, from whom she learns that her husband's killers were the Clemens brothers, who passed through their town recently. After this, she heads to the saloon where Thomas is gambling. When she says his name, however, the other patrons become alarmed, recognizing who he is. Quickly, Thomas shoots down the man in front of him. He then takes the body to the sheriff since the man has a bounty on his head. When the sheriff doubts the fugitive's identity, Thomas identifies himself and his name makes the official stammer, given his reputation as a bounty hunter. With no choice, the sheriff pays him the reward, though Thomas returns some money to give the fugitive a proper funeral, which he asserts he'll check in a few weeks. The duo then continue their trip to Mexico. During this, Thomas shares that they'll meet with Bailey, a gunmaker who used to work for the Confederate Army but fled to Mexico afterward. Now, the man is raising his family, which Thomas thinks is a good way to leave their mark on the world. Eventually, Bailey greets the two at his home. While they're invited into his warm home, the Clemens brothers continue struggling as they've set up camp with nothing to eat. Amidst their argument, Emmett devises a new plan to get some money. Late in the afternoon, Bailey and Thomas watch as Hannie plays with the former's children. Thomas comments that she wants to be a man but is unlikely to accomplish that. When Bailey asks why, his friend refuses to share. Dropping the subject, the gunmaker proceeds to discuss how to make Hannie's weapon. He notes that it'd have to be lighter, so they have to use thinner steel, which might make it weak. However, he notices that his friend isn't listening, thus giving him a clue about Thomas's budding feelings for his companion. The following day, Thomas begins Hannie's training while Bailey starts making her weapon. Days after, Bailey tests the gun he made, which seems to work. However, his face turns grim when a man on a black horse arrives. Hannie assumes that he's a preacher, but Thomas asserts that he isn't. The man hands the gunmaker a firearm for him to investigate. From checking it, Bailey concludes that the gun was given a new chamber within the last 2 weeks. Having heard what he needed, the man rides away. Soon, Bailey presents Hannie with her own gun that has 2 triggers to save her time from pulling the hammer back. When she sets out the trigger, Thomas scolds her, asserting that she should never pull the trigger unless she's aiming it at something she wants to end. Afterward, Thomas helps her practice with the gun, teaching her to keep her distance and move as she shoots, given that she's also a target during a battle. However, she quickly gets frustrated when her teacher doesn't acknowledge when she hits the target. At sunset, the two walk by the shore. Suddenly, Hannie grabs Thomas's hand and the man accepts her touch as romance brews between them. Days later, Hannie finds Thomas with Bailey's children. The father finds her admiring his friend, commenting how in this situation, Thomas doesn't look like he makes a living out of killing fugitives. Their peaceful moment, however, is ruined when a group of bandits on horseback arrives. Thomas sends the children back home while their father speaks to the men. The bounty hunter keeps a close eye on his friend, sensing something wrong. Eventually, a shootout ensues, so the men protect the home from the bandits. When one man shoots at Thomas from below, he drops down and swiftly ends him. Hannie joins in the fight, using her own gun in action for the first time. A man sneaks up behind her, but luckily, she notices just in time. However, as she faces him closely, she hesitates in pulling the trigger, forcing Thomas to save her. Soon, the surviving bandits abandon the place and flee. Elsewhere, the brothers use dynamite to open a bank safe. This proves effective in opening the door, but ends up burning away the cash. After another failed robbery, the gang escapes. One morning, Bailey bids his friends goodbye as the two ride away. Unbeknownst to them, the supposed preacher notices them as they pass an abandoned prison. Soon, they reach a town where the brothers are supposedly headed. Having seen her hesitate in shooting the bandit before, Thomas discourages Hannie from continuing her revenge. She refuses, asserting that the gang will get what they deserve. However, Thomas warns that whether she kills them or not, she'll lose the person she is now. Hannie decides that she doesn't want to be the person she was before, given that every man who sees her thinks the same thing. She accuses Thomas of being the same, and the man yells that he wishes he never took her in. With that, the woman tells him to leave, insisting that she no longer needs him. Thomas wonders if she just used him, which she confirms. Looking at her in the eyes, the bounty hunter comments that she's a terrible liar before leaving. After he walks out the door, Hannie sobs. Thomas exits the hotel but stops upon seeing the Clemens brothers arriving. He watches as the brothers continue bickering about having no money. Emmett and Rufus then head to the saloon while Frank gets a haircut. This allows Thomas to confront the latter alone. Catching him off guard, the bounty hunter orders him to disarm before presenting him with his own wanted poster. Frank has $100 on his head, so Thomas invites him to head to the sheriff's office peacefully. Just then, Emmett and Rufus exit the saloon and spot the two immediately. Emmett raises a knife to throw at the bounty hunter, but Thomas quickly draws his gun and fires. Emmett throws the knife before dodging the bullet, striking the bounty hunter in the stomach. This allows the brothers to escape. Having heard the gunshot, Hannie looks out her window and spots Thomas collapsing. She rushes to his aid, and with the townspeople's help, they take him back to her hotel room to let him rest. Tearfully, Hannie admits that she's a terrible liar, and Thomas jokes that she's terrible with a gun too. He warns that the brothers will kill her, so in his dying breath, he asks her to promise not to come after them anymore. Before she can answer, the man dies, and Hannie can only mourn him. Despite her mentor's wishes, the woman refuses to back down. She soon heads to the saloon, where she asks the bartender where the Clemens brothers are. The man answers that he only knows where Frank is, and he's upstairs in one of the rooms. Hannie immediately heads upstairs and breaks into Frank's room, where she finds him with a courtesan. Despite having the advantage that he's weaponless, the woman decides to make it a fair fight and tosses him back his gun belt. When she declares that she'll kill him, Frank laughs. The two face each other at a standoff, and Hannie manages to draw her gun and shoot first. Still, Frank wounds her shoulder. With the memory of Thomas's encouragement and the horrors the brothers did to her, anger fuels Hannie, so she shoots again, sending Frank crashing out the window to his doom. Soon, this town's sheriff hands Hannie the reward for killing Frank while having her wound tended. The woman then returns some of the money to fund the criminal's funeral, having learned to show respect for the dead from Thomas. The man then warns her about Frank's brothers learning about what she did, but the woman remains unfazed. After Frank is buried, his brothers visit his grave. Despite constantly fighting with his brother, Rufus is mournful over Frank's death and misses him. In contrast, Emmett is seething in rage and wants to seek revenge immediately. Noticing diggers nearby, Emmett pushes his brother to learn what they're up to. Rufus soon reports that a woman paid the diggers to prepare 2 more graves. Knowing that this is the same woman who killed Frank, Emmett concludes that she's still in town. Back in town, a recovering Hannie enjoys her reward and purchases some perfume. However, Rufus passes by and recognizes her. He quickly confronts her with a gun, but Hannie shows no fear. Rufus mocks her by recounting the time they spent at her old home. He then orders her to go with him to Emmett so they can enjoy her company again before killing her. In one swift motion, Hannie fires the gun she hid in her arm sling and shoots down Rufus, ending him. Afterward, she collects his bounty, but this time she leaves enough money for 2 funerals, certain that Emmett will soon join his brothers. Recognizing how dangerous her desire for revenge is, the sheriff orders her to leave town before innocent people get involved. She wonders why he never drove the brothers out of town as well, so the sheriff asserts that they were just some wanted fugitives who weren't bothering anyone in their town until she started their fight. Pissed, Hannie tells him to send Emmett to the nearby abandoned prison so she can settle their battle without bothering anyone. As she leaves, the sheriff comments that she's a hard woman. Hannie argues that there's no such thing as hard women, only soft men. Afterward, the woman rides out of town and heads to the abandoned prison. During this, Emmett learns about Rufus's death and that Hannie is leaving money for their funeral. This offends him, so he takes a portion of his supposed funeral money and makes his way to the prison. As he goes, the sheriff tells him to make the woman's death look like self-defense. Emmett later arrives at the prison as the wind picks up. Seeing the place quiet and empty, he searches the area with his gun ready. Suddenly, a gun is fired from afar but misses the fugitive. Hannie is hidden somewhere in the facility, so Emmett continues searching for her. He climbs to the guard posts and looks around, eventually noticing a shadow moving in the distance. Assuming this is his enemies, he goes in that direction and successfully finds Hannie, who's still oblivious to his location. Instead of his gun, he quietly takes a knife from his jacket and aims to throw it at her. Another gun is fired, sending Emmett's knife flying away. The preacher appears from behind one of the beams, having just saved Hannie's life from the man behind her. After that, the preacher puts his gun away as if urging the two to settle their duel fairly. With that, Hannie puts her gun in its holster, waiting for Emmett to position as well. However, the man laughs at her, finding it amusing that a woman is challenging him. As he does, Hannie recalls everything that Thomas taught her. The moment Emmett's hand reaches for his gun, she fires hers. As he falls down the steps, Hannie recalls the man's atrocities against her, fueling her to shoot him again, thus finally ending his life and her revenge. Despite winning, Thomas's warning that she'll lose herself after concluding her revenge echoes in her mind. Accepting that her life has changed forever, the woman heads back to town, carrying Emmett's body to collect her reward as she follows her mentor's footsteps as a bounty hunter.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.